I still remember the day my world cracked open. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. My wife, Emily, had just given birth. The nurses congratulated me, the doctor smiled, and I was handed a small clipboard. "Time to sign the birth certificate, Dad," the nurse said cheerfully. But when I looked into the baby's eyes, something didn't sit right. Our daughter, well, the child Emily gave birth to, had features that didn't resemble either of us. Not just a little difference. It was unmistakable. My gut twisted. My hands froze. I didn't sign. At first, Emily laughed it off, saying, "Babies change. You're just being paranoid." But I wasn't. I wasn't just imagining things. Because 2 weeks before the birth, I had found something. A message on her old phone she forgot to delete. It was from someone named AJ, and it said, "If she comes out looking like me, what are we gonna tell your husband?" I hadn't confronted her right away. I needed proof. I needed clarity. But now, with this baby here and a birth certificate waiting for my signature, I had to make a choice. And I chose truth. "I'm not signing anything," I said coldly, placing the clipboard on the table. Emily's face fell. "What the hell are you talking about?" I didn't answer. I walked out of the room, leaving behind the baby, and a wife I no longer recognized. That I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot for almost an hour, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. My phone buzzed over and over, calls, texts, voicemails, all from Emily. But I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to hear more lies. By the time I got home, my mind was spinning. The house we once called a home now felt like a stranger's property. Every photo on the wall, every keepsake, every memory suddenly felt tainted. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly. Then I pulled out the old phone I had found 2 weeks ago, the one she thought she'd erased. I had backed everything up. The messages weren't just casual flirting. They were intimate, detailed, and ongoing. She had met AJ at a conference last year while I was home sick with the flu. Their business trip turned into something else. There were pictures. Hotel receipts. And worst of all, an audio message of her laughing about how she would make it work no matter what. I replayed it 3 times before slamming the phone down. When she came home the next morning, alone, her face was a mess. Puffy eyes, makeup smudged. She dropped her hospital bag and tried to hug me. I stepped back. "You want to talk?" I said, my voice low. "Let's talk. But only the truth." She looked at me, trembling. "I made a mistake." "No," I cut her off. "A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A year-long affair and hiding another man's baby from me. That's betrayal." Tears spilled down her face. I didn't know what to do. I didn't plan it. It just happened. I laughed bitterly. "And what were you planning to do? Make me raise her kid as my own and pretend everything was normal?" She said nothing. The silence told me everything. Emily finally sat down across from me, hands shaking, her wedding ring catching the morning light like some cruel joke. "I was scared," she whispered. "I didn't think it would go this far. I thought maybe we could pretend and move on." "Pretend?" I snapped. "You thought I'd just sign that certificate and never ask questions? Raise a child that isn't mine like nothing happened?" She nodded slowly, ashamed. "Yes. Because I knew if I told you the truth, I'd lose everything." "You already did," I said flatly. Her lip quivered. "But you're the only man I ever truly loved. AJ was a mistake. It was attention. It was excitement. But it was never real." That hit me hard, not because it helped, but because it made everything worse. She threw away our life together for nothing real. I got up and went to the drawer, pulled out the folder I had quietly prepared during those 2 weeks of suspicion. Inside, Printed messages, photos, hotel bookings, the results of a private paternity test I ordered in secret. The child wasn't mine. Confirmed. I slid the folder across the table. You don't need to say anything. I already know the truth. She opened it slowly. Her hands trembled harder as she flipped through the evidence. Her face went pale. Then she looked up at me. Are you going to divorce me? I paused. You think this is just about divorce? Emily, this is about who you've become. This is about trust being ripped out by the roots. I can't even look at you the same way anymore. But we have a life, a house, a marriage. No, I said firmly. We had those things. Emily's shoulders collapsed under the weight of my words. It was as if she finally understood that this wasn't a fight we could recover from. This wasn't about one bad decision, it was about a web of lies she spun so tightly, she believed I'd never untangle it. I'll do anything, she whispered. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I shook my head slowly. The time for that was before you invited another man into our marriage bed. Before you planned to trap me into raising his child. She flinched at that. Good. She needed to feel it. The reality. The betrayal. For a moment, we just sat in silence, the kind that feels like it stretches for miles. I could see it in her eyes, panic, regret, desperation, but none of it moved me. My heart had gone numb. I'm not putting my name on that certificate, I said calmly. And I'm not staying in this house while you pretend this can still be salvaged. She looked like she wanted to scream but didn't dare. Instead, she reached for my hand. I pulled it away. Don't, I warned. You don't get to be the victim here. Her face hardened slightly, the first trace of defensiveness surfacing. So you're just going to walk away? Throw everything away over one mistake? One mistake? I echoed in disbelief. Emily, you created a child with another man while I was sleeping beside you every night. That's not a mistake. That's a second life behind my back. I stood up and grabbed my car keys. I'm going to stay at my brother's, I said. You've got a lot of decisions to make. Starting with whether you want to tell the real father about his daughter. Her mouth opened to protest, but I was already walking out the door. And this time, I didn't look back. At my brother's place, I finally allowed myself to breathe. Jason didn't ask many questions. He just handed me a beer, nodded toward the couch, and let me collapse into the silence. He had always been like that, quiet, steady, the kind of guy who knew when to talk and when not to. After a while, he asked the only question that mattered. You sure it's not yours? I nodded. Got the DNA results. No match. Jason cursed under his breath. Damn, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, I muttered. Me too. The next few days passed like a fog. Emily texted non-stop, messages that ranged from guilt to anger to desperate promises. She even sent pictures of the baby, trying to guilt me into just meeting her. But every time I looked at those photos, I felt nothing. Not hate. Not love. Just emptiness. That baby might have been innocent, but she wasn't mine. And the woman holding her? She wasn't my wife anymore, not in any way that mattered. Then came the message I knew was coming. I told AJ. Everything. He freaked. He says he doesn't want anything to do with us. I stared at that text for a long time. So the real father had vanished too. Of course he had. She was alone now. She followed up an hour later with, I don't know what to do. I need you. I almost laughed out loud. She needed me. Now. The same woman who planned to bury me in lies, raise another man's child with me like nothing happened, and lie about it for the rest of our lives. No. She didn't need me. She needed someone to clean up her mess. And I wasn't that man anymore. 3 days later, I met with a lawyer. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want drama. I just wanted clarity. Closure. A clean break. My attorney, an older woman named Margaret with sharp eyes and zero patience for nonsense, flipped through the documents I had brought, messages, the paternity test, and a written statement I drafted explaining why I refused to sign the birth certificate. "You're smart not to sign," she said without looking up. "Once your name goes on that paper, you're legally on the hook. Even if it's not your child." I nodded. I already made that mistake by trusting her. She glanced at me. "Do you want to fight for anything? The house? Assets?" "No," I said flatly. "I just want out." "She can keep the house. I'll sign over my share. I've already packed my things." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "That's generous." "It's not generosity," I replied. "It's detachment." When I returned home later that evening to grab the last of my belongings, Emily was waiting in the doorway, holding the baby. Her eyes were bloodshot, her body exhausted. "Please," she begged. "You don't have to take me back. Just don't hate her." I looked at the child, sleeping, innocent, unaware of the storm she'd been born into. "I don't hate her," I said quietly. "She's just not mine." Emily's lips trembled. "So that's it? You walk away forever?" I paused at the door, suitcase in hand. "I didn't walk away, Emily," I said. "You pushed me." And with that, I left. No screaming. No goodbye kiss. Just silence. The kind that follows betrayal. The weeks that followed were strangely peaceful. I moved into a small apartment downtown, not much, just one bedroom and a view of the parking lot, but it felt like mine. Clean slate. No baby cries. No lies under the floorboards. Just quiet. I blocked Emily's number. I didn't do it out of spite, I did it for survival. Every time her name popped up on my screen, it dragged me back into that hospital room, back to the clipboard I never signed, back to a life that was never real. But life, as it always does, began to move forward. I went back to work. My co-workers knew something had happened, but nobody asked. I buried myself in projects, started going to the gym again, even caught a few football games with Jason. Slowly, I started to feel human. Then one morning, I got an email. Subject, "Please, just 5 minutes." It was from Emily. I almost deleted it. But the body of the message stopped me cold. "I'm not asking you to take me back. I just want to apologize face to face, once. I owe you that. After that, you'll never hear from me again." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to hit delete. But another part, some fractured piece still craving closure, agreed to meet. We chose a neutral place, a small cafe on the edge of town. She showed up late, looking like someone who hadn't slept in days. Hair tied back, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. The Emily I knew was always polished. This woman was different. "Thank you," she said softly, sitting down across from me. "I didn't expect you to come." I didn't answer. She took a shaky breath. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I got caught. Not because of how it ended. But because I destroyed someone who only ever loved me right." Her voice cracked. "I see you in every room of that house, even when you're gone. And I see what I lost. Every single day." I said nothing for a long time. Then finally, I nodded. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "But we're past fixing, Emily. You didn't just break a vow. You broke me." She looked down. "I know." After the cafe meeting, I walked away feeling lighter. Not healed. Not whole. But unchained. Emily had said her piece. I had listened. And I meant it when I said we were past fixing. Some betrayals leave cracks too deep to patch, especially when they come from the person you once trusted most. I didn't go back to her. I didn't check in. I didn't look back. Weeks turned into months. I started seeing a therapist, working through the scars I didn't even realize I was carrying. Trust, anger, identity, it all had to be rebuilt from the ground up. But I was doing it. Brick by brick. Then one afternoon, I ran into someone I hadn't expected, AJ. It happened at a gas station, of all places. I recognized him from the photos I had pulled from Emily's phone. Same smug face. But this time, he looked nervous. He glanced at me. Froze. Then tried to look away like he didn't know who I was. I stepped forward. You AJ? I asked calmly. He paused. Yeah. Who's asking? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't swing. Just stood there. I'm the guy whose wife you got pregnant. Thought maybe we should meet face to face. His jaw tensed. Look, man, I didn't know she was still with you, I cut him off. Doesn't matter anymore. I'm not here for drama. I just want to know, are you in that child's life or not? He hesitated. She said she didn't need me. Told me to stay away. I nodded once. Right. Sounds like her. He looked at me, confused. You're not mad. I was, I said honestly. But now? I just pity her. And you. And with that, I walked away. That conversation sealed it. The chapter was closed. The damage was done, but so was my part in it. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need justice. I had something better now. Freedom. A year passed. I'd moved on in more ways than one. New apartment. New job. New routines. And eventually, unexpectedly, a new relationship. Her name was Natalie. She was nothing like Emily. Gentle, honest, steady. The kind of woman who didn't make me question my reality. I told her everything early on. I expected her to run. Instead, she listened. She didn't pity me. She didn't try to fix me. She just stood beside me, steady as stone. It was the first time I truly realized, healing doesn't come when you forget the past, it comes when you stop letting it define you. As for Emily, I never heard from her again. I kept my word. Never reached out. Never asked about the child. And never regretted it. Because what people don't understand about betrayal is this, it doesn't just end a relationship, it reshapes you. Rebuilds you. You walk away from the fire either bitter, or forged stronger. I chose stronger. And in the end, I wasn't the man who signed a lie. I was the man who walked away from one, and never looked back. About 18 months after it all ended, I got one final letter. Not a message. Not a voicemail. A handwritten letter, mailed to my new address. I don't know how Emily got it, maybe through mutual friends, maybe through some digital breadcrumb I forgot to erase. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Inside was a simple, shaky note. She's walking now. She has your eyes, even if they're not yours. I hope one day, you'll forgive me, not for what I did to you, but for what I stole from her. Emily. I read it once. Then again. Then folded it and placed it in the drawer with the rest of the pieces of that past life. Forgiveness? Maybe someday. But not today. Because what Emily never understood was this, it wasn't just about the affair. Or the child. Or the lie. It was about how casually she turned love into strategy, how she risked another man's heart to cover up her own guilt. That kind of damage doesn't fade. It teaches. It sharpens. It changes your entire sense of truth. And while I'd moved on, I would never forget. Some stories don't need a sequel. They need an ending. And this, finally, was mine. It was a rainy evening when I sat alone in my apartment, reading that letter again. Not out of longing. Not because I missed her. But because I needed to feel how far I had come. There was a time, not that long ago, when that note would have broken me. When I would have stared at the words, reread them obsessively, and wondered if I had made the right choice. But now, I felt nothing but peace. The truth is, healing doesn't come all at once. It's not some magical sunrise after a dark night. It's small moments, quiet victories. Like seeing a photo of them and not feeling your stomach turn. Like hearing their name without your chest tightening. Like remembering, without hurting. And that night, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, I realized something else. I never needed revenge. I never needed her to suffer. I just needed me to be free. So I did something symbolic. I lit a fire in the fireplace, dropped the letter in, and watched it curl into ash. Not out of spite. Out of closure. Emily had written her final words. And now, I had written mine, on my own terms. A year later, I stood at the edge of a quiet lake with Natalie by my side. We weren't celebrating anything specific. No anniversary, no milestone. Just peace. Just presence. She reached for my hand. "You seem far away," she said softly. I smiled. Just thinking how different life looks now. A while ago, I didn't think I'd ever feel this, okay? She leaned into me. "It's not about forgetting, is it?" "No," I said. "It's about finally knowing the difference between who you were and who you're becoming." I had learned that healing isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause or recognition. It comes in stillness. In the way you start to trust again. In how you laugh without guilt. In how you choose love again, carefully, fully, and with your eyes open. Emily had written her chapter in my story, but she didn't get to write the ending. I did. And as Natalie and I stood by the water, I finally let the past drift away, not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer controlled me. Not every story ends the way you imagined. Some end even better, because they begin again. On your own terms.